Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Boxiest, and today we're going to continue the What If series. What if events had gone differently? And in this What If, we're going to change the history of Cobra Kai. What if Robby fled to Okinawa during the events of Cobra Kai Season 3? So in this timeline, the events of Cobra Kai Season 2 would still happen, the school fight would still happen, and those events would stay the same. Robby would still kick Miguel off the balcony, so Miguel would still be paralyzed in this timeline. Robby would realize what he had done, and he would be ashamed, so Robby would still escape in this timeline. Robby would be on the run, and he would realize he had nowhere to go. This is when he would remember that he was reading a book about the history of Okinawa, and he would realize no one would ever find him there. So Robby would decide to flee to Okinawa in this timeline. So Robby would steal some money, and he would gather all the money he had previously saved, and he would buy a one-way ticket to Okinawa, and the events of Season 3 would carry on. Robby would arrive in Okinawa, and he would remember Daniel telling him about Tommy Village. So Robby would decide to take a taxi to Tommy Village, and at Tommy Village, Robby would be wandering around, and he would see Kumiko performing. Robby would be impressed. Kumiko would see Robby around the plaza, and she would notice Robby needed help, so Kumiko would introduce herself to Robby. Kumiko and Robby would talk. Robby would tell Kumiko that he was an exchange student from the US, and that he came to Okinawa to learn about its culture, and he would say that he was looking for a job, so Kumiko would help Robby, and she would hire Robby as her assistant, and she would even offer him a place to stay. Robby would be grateful, and the events of Season 3 would continue. And meanwhile at the valley, Daniel would still be looking for Robby, and he would still go to Johnny, so Daniel and Johnny would team up to find Robby. Those events would stay the same. Johnny would still go see Miguel, and Daniel would still continue looking for Robby, but he would have no luck. Eventually, Daniel would give up his search, and the events of Season 3 would carry on. The rivalry between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do would continue, and in Okinawa, Robby would continue working for Kumiko, and he would eventually meet Chosen, and eventually over time, Chosen would notice Robby's martial arts characteristics, and he would ask him if he's done karate before. Robby would say that he used to do karate in the US. Chosen would be intrigued, and he would invite Robby to join his class. So Chosen would train Robby in this timeline. He would teach Robby the aggressive form of Miyagi-Do, and Chosen would notice that Robby had prior Miyagi-Do training. Robby would eventually become one of Chosen's best students, and the events of Season 3 would continue. LaRusso Auto would still be suffering, and Tom Cole would still offer to buy it out, but Daniel would still refuse. Daniel would still want to save his business, and he would still decide to go to Tokyo. Those events would stay the same, and eventually Daniel would go to Okinawa, and in Okinawa, Daniel would be surprised to see how much Okinawa had changed. Daniel would still see Kumiko, and they would be surprised to see each other after all these years, so Kumiko and Daniel would still reunite, and those events would carry on. Daniel would still go to Kumiko's house, and he would be surprised to see Robby there. Robby would be surprised to see Daniel. Daniel would say that they were worried sick, and that they were looking all over for him. Kumiko would ask if she knew Robby, so Daniel would explain everything. Kumiko would be surprised to hear this. Robby would apologize to Kumiko for lying to her. Daniel would want to convince Robby to come back to the US, but Robby would refuse. He would say that he's built a life in Okinawa, and that he can't go back. Daniel would realize that if Robby went back, he would be sent to juvie, then eventually prison, so Daniel would agree to keep Robby's secret, but he would tell Robby that he was gonna have to tell Shannon and Johnny so that they know where to find him. Robby would agree. This is when Chosen would stop by, and Daniel would be surprised to see Chosen. Danny would be on guard, and he would be defensive. He wouldn't trust Chosen, but Kumiko would say that Chosen had changed. Robby would say that Chosen was a good person, and that he's been training him. Chosen wouldn't mess with Daniel in this timeline, and he would apologize. Daniel would see that Chosen was sincere, and he would forgive Chosen. Daniel would call Shannon and Johnny, and he would tell them about Robby, and they would be happy that Robby was okay. And that is where I'm gonna end part 1. Thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think would have happened if Robby fled to Okinawa during the events of Cobra Kai Season 3? Let me know in the comments below. YouTube lets me know that the majority of you are not subscribed, so if you guys could subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys next time.